Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Today is the 1st of November. How did it come so soon? Right after Halloween, October 31st, happens every year. Well, I'm just delighted to be here with you today as we talk about our very next series in nurse coaching, which is about communication and teamwork. Where would we be as nurses without communication and teamwork? It's a team sport. Nursing has always involved a number of people. Um, of course, there are a few jobs that are somewhat more isolated, but even then, there's generally always a group to come back to. And I just am so grateful today to have the opportunity, first of all, to talk about nurse coaching, and secondly, to talk about the principles that we share. And first, I'm going to just ask Teresa. Teresa, where are you in the world today? Oops, just left us. Well, see, she's disappeared. Teresa is on vacation. Yes, nurses actually get to take vacation. And oh, here she comes back again. Maybe I'll let her
About that.
say a word about that. Hey,
Yeah,
Teresa.
sorry. There's nothing I can do, so we're just going to deal with it.
Yeah. So where are you in the world today, Teresa Walding?
I am in Boise, Idaho, enjoying this nice crisp weather and really enjoying some really quality family time. So
Oh, fabulous. Yeah. Nurses actually get to have quality family time as nurse coaches.
amazingly, yes. It's funny you just said it like that because there was a time in my life where I didn't do that. And not willingly, not knowingly, but I think in this time in my life, it's very important. So making time to do that.
Well, and you've changed jobs too.
I changed jobs. I changed my life. I mean, I think their topic today is nurse coaching, and nurse coaching is changing lives, including mine,
Yeah,
and whoever wants to do it.
fabulous. Well, so Florence Nightingale, our favorite nurse theorist, said in 1870 that it would be 150 years before people saw the kind of nursing that I envisioned. Wow, that year was 2020. That was the year that everything changed for nursing. And what we're about now, specifically in regard to nurse coaching, is, in my opinion, redefining nursing and the work that nurses do, which is a joy. My background is primarily public health, although I've worked in many hospital settings, and I am also an adult and geriatric nurse practitioner. I'm very pleased to say that nurse coaching covers all clinical areas, and that our clients are all age groups, all diagnoses, all economic groups. There is no one that nurse coaching can't impact. So let's just talk about nursing for a minute. It's the world's largest profession. I was shocked when I realized that. We outnumber the physicians 4-1. So in this country alone, we have almost 4 million nurses and a million physicians. In the global community of nursing, we actually have 14 million nurses. We're the largest profession. So of course we touch more lives than any other group of people. This is a perfect way for the tipping point to come in, Teresa. Can you tell us about the tipping point?
I learned about the tipping point a couple of years ago. A very wonderful person came to we held Zoom moment of silence for Florence Nightingale on her birthday, May 12th. And she came and she was talking about the tipping point. And I'd heard of the book, but I never really understood what it was. And she said it's when 0.0001% of a group of people or ideas or something new in the world reaches that 0.0001%. At that point, whatever that is, takes life. It goes through a population, a community, the world, and it's unstoppable. Well, in nurse coaching, we only need 1,400 nurses for the tipping point to happen. And we have 3,000 board certified nurse coaches right now. So we've hit the tipping point. And I noticed a couple of years ago, about the same time I learned about that on job postings, they were actually posting for nurse coaches. And it was like patient navigators, case management, insurance companies, but they caught on to the coaching aspect of it to attract nurse coaches. And I thought that was very interesting to me that even the language in our advertising has changed to embrace this new way, in my view, of nursing. Nurses practice to the top of their licensure and experience as a nurse coach. We bring the aspect, because coaching has been a very big thing in leadership for, I would say, 5 or 10 years, maybe longer. And now it's in nursing. So here we are. I love it.
Yeah, so a couple of things there. I'm always thrilled to be able to say that nursing is the very first and the only profession that offers a board certification in coaching. No other profession offers their own board certification. There are lots of certifications out there, but none of which are recognized by the profession itself, except for nursing. And we have Margaret Erickson and the American Holistic Nurses Certification Corporation to thank for that. The other thing is the National Institute of Health, and I find this fascinating. So they did a study, a survey study of nurse coaches, certified nurse coaches, and the findings were very interesting. They found that, well, with the respondents said that 70% of the respondents said that as certified nurse coaches, they had improved job satisfaction. 80% said that they had improved interpersonal relationships. That's where we are today, talking about communication. And thirdly, that 85% of the respondents had improved personal health and health habits. My goodness. So who are the nurse coaches? They're happy, healthy people who are good communicators. That is what we need in nursing today. So maybe we should begin, Teresa, with our subject.
Sure. I prepared a little PowerPoint. I'm just going to go through it slowly, maybe fast at some point, but it's to open the conversation. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. I have to find the place to start the thing. So can you see that okay?
Yes.
So what is nurse coaching? This is a series that Lynn and I are
Your audio seems to be missing. So a catalyst for effective communication and teamwork. I don't think I can move the slides forward though. We know that what's missing in our healthcare system today is communication. And if anytime you look at the issues that are being raised within the profession, what you find that's being said is that there are issues between the healthcare system and nurses themselves being able to communicate with each other. And that communication between the healthcare systems and the nurses seems to be the hot topic of discussion today in many of the forums that you see on the internet and online.
I apologize for that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is the topic for today is effective communication and teamwork. So what is nurse coaching? We've talked about that just a little bit. It's a container for an intentional conversation to have with individuals who are receptive. That's one of the keys of coaching, is that people enter that conversation intentionally. And that can be simply asking a question, would it be okay if we have this conversation? And getting an agreement with someone to actually explore a topic or have a conversation. And we do that through, being present, holding space, slowing down, to actually listen to their response. So that's one of the first things about communication, is to really embrace that person and be curious about what they're going to say. And in our program, we teach something that we call the 3 principles. It's really how resilience works. It's really how we use our thought process to guide us through life, to give us an experience of life, really. And then when there's another concept we're going to talk about.
Well, I don't know if they're having a storm or what, but Teresa says she will be going in and out, which apparently she will. How nurse coaching, guided by the 3 principles, can transform communication in healthcare. Well, there's a specific terminology that we use in the principles, which is described as separate realities. Now, that's the thing that often gets people's attention when we talk about the principles. And I love to talk about separate realities because, I mean, who hasn't gone to the movies with their best friend and come away saying, that was the best movie I ever saw? And your friend said, I didn't like it at all. So our experience through life is very much unique to us. We each have our own thought system. You can't have my thoughts, and I can't have yours. So, Teresa, I was just saying, if we both went to the movies, you might love the movie, and I might think it was the worst one I'd ever seen.
True story. True story. So in this conversation, and this is what we'd like to bring to it, is how can understanding 3 principles, mind, consciousness, and thought, help us enhance communication, teamwork, and embracing separate realities or individual differences. And I think most of us understand that, but I want to have an open conversation and a dialogue about that. Lynn, do you want to talk about these?
Wow. So the overarching principles that we are offering are metaphors, really, for how life works. And it only works one way. Mind is always in the background, supporting us, bringing us our energy, our life, breathing life into us. It's the source of all things. Now, consciousness is the ability that we have as humans to experience life. And of course, animals that have consciousness also. And they say that plants do as well. So it's that experience, that opportunity, the way that we experience life is through our consciousness. But on the more universal level, consciousness is there to guide us. Without consciousness, we would not even be aware that we were having an experience of life. And that brings us down to thought, which is wonderful, because thought is the rudder, thought is the bridge between mind and consciousness that allows us as human beings to change our mind and change our experience accordingly. We're the only species that actually can do that. A tree is going to grow from an acorn, and a bird is going to fly. But as human beings, we have the opportunity to recognize our own thought. So just think of it as a little illustration, like we're the observer back here, and we're observing what we're thinking. So we're able to see what our thoughts are. And we can therefore have the opportunity, if we choose, to change our thoughts. Now, people who have not realized that for themselves are often found in prisons or in mental institutions, because the ability to change thought is what makes us have an active, vibrant life. If you meet up with somebody in prison, they will tell you oftentimes, well, the refrigerator told me to do it, so I did. No consciousness of their own thought system, that overarching objective view that human beings actually have. A lot of human beings don't understand that that's even available to them. Teresa?
So about nurse coaching.
And the three principles. It combines medical expertise with the wisdom of the three principles and empowers nurses to guide patients, acknowledging their separate realities. So nurse coaching is no longer us just handing over people, shaking our finger saying, you've got to do this. In nurse coaching, we're walking alongside the client, with the client a little bit ahead, because it's their goals that are being worked on. And we're a team member working with the client. And as such, we'll never burn out, because our conversations are as rewarding to the coach as they are to the client. There we go. Teresa's back, I think. We'll see.
I am so sorry. I have no idea what to do without this.
You're fine.
So understanding how thought works, I think Lynn, as I was listening, had some really good points. But as a nurse coach, because we have that biopsychosocial, medical, physical knowledge, we use all of our senses to communicate with, whether we know it or not.
I know every nurse has had the experience of running like mad down to the end of the hall, not knowing why she's going there. And when she arrives in the room, she sees that a nurse is needed now. That intuitive knowing is something that we've often called nursing intuition. But the holistic nurses, which we're certified through, actually has a new terminology, which is that it's described as an informed knowing. So we have an informed knowing that guides us at every minute of every day in not just our work life, but in our personal life as well.
I'm wondering if it's when I share my screen, so I'm just going to talk if that's okay.
I think that's great. Yeah, right. So we have an informed knowing that guides us always, and that is what our consciousness is. We are always moving forward one step ahead, one moment at a time. I know Teresa tells a story about one very long weekend where she was on call 36 hours straight. And she was surrounded by team members who were enthusiastically applying themselves to their work every minute of that long weekend. And she took a photograph of herself at the end of that weekend. And we could see in that photograph that her eyes were still bright. And without the mask, she would have been smiling. But we know that just listening always for the next step and the next step and the next step, because we are guided as to exactly what to do next. We've all had the training that we need to be doing the jobs that we're doing now. And all of those beautiful steps to take are offered up to us in the moment as we keep our present moment awareness. Teresa? So another thing that we talk about in principles is called flat earth thinking. And of course, when the seamen of many centuries ago were going out to explore the world, they took great big anchors with them so that they could throw those anchors out and prevent themselves from falling off the edge of the earth. Of course, now we know with the satellites and all that the earth is not flat, but there's lots of thinking that is going around in healthcare today that is not serving healthcare. It's not serving the patients, it's not serving the staff, and it's not serving the institution. Teresa, flat earth thinking?
Well, it's thinking in a way that it never worked. The way that humans have always thought that we were responding or reacting to our environment. And you see this everywhere, in healthcare right now. Everyone is reacting to what they think is a perceived threat.
We've often had people who have come to us and said, well, we have to do something about the bullying. We have to do something about the violence. We have to do something about the burnout. Well, it's one answer. It's one answer, one solution. And that solution has to do with thought. It's so super simple. It's easy to miss. When we understand for ourselves that we have separate realities, for example, there will no longer be a miscommunication with a 2x4 applied over somebody's head. Our communication is going to be open, and we're going to listen to understand each other, because we will know that we can't have someone else's thought. We'll listen with respect and understand that we're getting someone else's opinion, but that our thought cannot be forced on someone else. The end of bullying is at hand. Oh, I was just about to ask Teresa if she could speak. So let's talk about what we describe as burnout for a minute. We are all here today because we have identified ourselves, first of all, as healthcare professionals, and specifically in regard to nursing. Well, there had to be a reason that we chose nursing as our profession. And as we are able to gravitate back to that original flame that lived inside of us, we're able to reward ourselves again with the knowledge of why we came into nursing in the first place. And that knowledge, almost in every case, not all, almost all, has to do with our love of working with people. And that love of working with people is so rewarded in nurse coaching because we're no longer pushing our ideas on someone else. We're asking them where they want to go next. And that really is the only way that change can occur. So that brings us to a beautiful word called insight. And for our clients, we are helping them. The goal of all coaching is insight, a sight from within. And when they have an insight for themselves on why they might want to make a change, they also have the information on how to take the next step. And it may not look like a textbook example. They will get information through their own insight that is absolutely unique to them. And because it came to them directly, it actually works and they're able to follow through with it. So most people get insights. We've all had this experience. Driving down the road, stepping out of the shower, sometime when you're just not actively thinking. Those are usually the times when an insight comes. But also, insight can come in the middle of an emergency. Think about the mom who has to lift the child off of her car, out from under her car after the car wreck. Those instances are all insight. Teresa, what would you like to say?
Well, insight is the way that we make all change. No one makes a different decision until they have insight into why they might want to do that. And I don't think I ever really knew that before I knew about principles. I just did it. We've all just done it our whole life. When I worked in ICU, I lived off that intuition, off insight. Like, the next thing to do was the next thing to do, right? When you don't have time to think, you just do. That's truly what these principles are at work within each individual. And if we know that we have it, it gives us a different locus of control and a come from that allows us to be aware of our thinking. And we have to have that to be good communicators, to be able to really take notice of separate realities, that every individual in the world will never have your thought and you will never have theirs. And we can embrace those differences because what comes with a separate reality is everything we've learned in our life, the way we were raised, the bodies we live in, the cultures we live in. And if we never get curious about another human being and how they work or how they're looking at life, we stay stuck in our own way of thinking. We think everyone should think like us, or we know that they don't. So we think, wouldn't it be nice if they did? And in coaching, we actually embrace that curiosity and open the conversation to the curiosity of someone else's life and how they might perceive it. And then we take responsibility for what we say next, knowing that we would never actually think the same. And it gives a really good foundation for open communication, for decreasing judgment, stop criticizing each other for the way that we think people are. and then we do things like, well, they're always like,
we make judgments so often, and of course that's part of our work as nurses. Before iPhones, we which now are doing accurate measurements for us, we were the ones who had to judge, is this worm getting larger or is it getting smaller? Now the iPhone can tell us. But we are always the ones who have critical judgments to make. For example, for a nurse in the community, is this child better off coming out of the home for their own safety than they are staying in the home? Those are some hard facts that nurses have to be confronted with on a daily basis. We have judgments to make. But what I realized not long ago through my own insight was this: dropping self-judgment is the most important part of self-care. Dropping judgment about myself is the most important part of taking care of myself. Wow. How do you do that? I went around for days asking, how do I do that? And then I realized that in the absence of judgment, compassion appears. And we're the compassion experts as nurses. We all know exactly what to do for everybody else. Now, let's just turn that focus on ourselves, so we know how to survive and how to best benefit ourselves as the nurse, as the woman. And that's the only way that we can continue to fill our cup and offer our help to others, family and clients.
that's true. I think the one other aspect before I disappear again, I would like to bring to the table is like our personalities, our physiology, the way we show up at work. Stress is contagious. Intuition is also contagious. And I think if we could really notice, we've heard this, nurses know this. If a bunch of women work together, their cycles will sync up together. That's a known phenomenon, and there's a physiological and sociological reason for that. It's survival. And if we can really embrace not just our thoughts, but the fact that our thoughts bring on physiology, they, increase stress, increases cortisol leaking out of our skin, jumping onto other people. And when we breed that environment, how present are we to tuning into each other? We're not. And I think it's really good to know about how we interact with each other. And of course, in nursing, 90%, I think, are women. So you can imagine the hormones flying around units and interpersonal communications, and really kind of taking a look that sometimes we're more emotionally available than other times. And sometimes, because we have consciousness and awareness and medical knowledge, we can use that to our advantage, and especially in leadership and nursing, to take a look at, like, maybe today I'm not feeling quite as well. maybe today's not a good day to have a conversation about something difficult. But we can also go, today's a really good day. What do they say? Days 2 through 12 are the best days to have a conversation before your period. Those are the days, that's the prime time if you're going to make changes or help people be persuasive or open to communication. What's happening then? Our estrogen is high, we're feeling kind of good, we're not looking forward to what's next. And using those kinds of physiological things that happen to people, that there's happening in our whole society, to our advantage, especially in leadership, and especially working together with human beings. And I think that's one of the places that we never talk about it, that how thoughts affect physiology. We talk about mind-body connection. How many of you actually know what that is? I have an intellectual idea, but there's sometimes I forget that that's a connected system. We live in a completely connected system where our thinking can influence our physiology. And then we do things and we say, oh, I didn't do that. That's not what I meant. And we're all doing it. So becoming aware of separate realities and our physiology and our social conditions or norms that we have. There's a reason that we've studied all of these things. What they all have in common are the 3 principles: mind, consciousness, and thought. And that is the driving factor of human experience. But it's all connected.
And we want to have each other's backs as nurses, as team members for each other. That really seems to me to be one of the things that has felt most absent in the last 3 years. It's coming back now, but people are recognizing that they want to have that sense of community. They don't just want to know the name on a name tag, but they want to know a bit about the individual themselves. And they're making an effort to do that. It's the humanity that we're bringing to all of us that demonstrates that. And I'm so glad that nurses are understanding it's not just the next box of pizza coming through the door that gives them their job satisfaction.
So bringing it back to nurse coaching and what that means for communication. And Lynn gave us some really great statistics at the beginning of this talk. I don't know anyone who doesn't want to have happy, healthy connections, who wants to be a part of a team, who wants to grow personally and professionally. And truly, nurse coaching for me, I didn't know it existed until 7 years ago. It's only been around for about 10. And it's really bringing a new wave of professionalism to nursing as we embrace new conversations and really including ourselves as nurses as part of that equation. I think the days are gone of us giving and giving and giving until there's nothing
left of us to give. And we often find that by taking care of ourselves, we do have the energy, the enthusiasm, the love that is exactly what the next individual needs. And really, isn't it that one person at a time or group of people that we're working with that rewards us, that reminds us why we came into nursing in the first place? That sense of communication feels good, and we want more of that.
So I think we've talked about the different ways that we can talk about nurse coaching, communication, teamwork, and really this sense of well-being that people are grasping for it at the moment. And in our program, that's what we do. we take care of the nurse first. The first two courses literally are taking care of the nurse first, giving us a felt experience of what it's like to do that and to really embrace what we know, how we know it. We care for others better when we take care of ourselves. We say those words. I've said those words a million times. How many of you do it consistently? Yeah, good. I wish I was that. I've gotten so much better because I think as we have embraced this new way of living post-COVID, we want it more and more people are choosing health, and they're choosing themselves to become part of the healing equation. And nurses are perfectly primed for that.
So what about being kind?
You can always be more kind to yourself than you think you are. I went to France in July and I was looking out over this beautiful field with rabbits playing, and I had the thought that just came to me that said, you're not as kind to yourself as you think you are. And I thought to myself immediately, my next thought was, but I've been being so good to myself. I'm doing this and this and this and this. But I realized that's not the kind of kind I was thinking about. It was slowing down and enjoying life. When was the last time you slowed down long enough to watch rabbits play? It had been a really long time. Remembering that we're connected to our environment, to go out and enjoy it. It's there for us to enjoy, but we have to make a decision and take the effort to do it. And in my world, it seemed like I had just forgotten how to do it. Like I knew it was there, it's right there. I can go do it, but you have to take the step out the door. So a thought without action, knowledge without action doesn't really mean much. Knowledge without deciding to have that conversation doesn't mean much. So in coaching, it's, you come with a topic, you want to make a change, you can talk about it forever, but until you take an action, nothing happens. And I think that's the power of coaching. It really instills that ability to say, listen, you said you wanted this. What are you going to do to make that happen? And everyone needs someone in their corner to help them do that sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes.
So I think, Teresa, at this point, I'd love to open our forum to questions. I know it's been on again and off again conversation. Conversations are like that. We get interrupted.
I just appreciate
we get interrupted and then we come back. So this is like life, we get to practice balancing on each foot. Wow. Well, I just I'm going to somehow ask everybody to feel free to unmute themselves, and as we do that, please feel free to ask questions and just let us know your thoughts and questions about the topic of communication.
Well, since nobody really wants to talk, I'll talk. I'm the one that can't stand silence, and I work on that all the time because I know silence is an important thing. When I started teaching cardiac rehab, I had to walk the talk. So that was a big impetus for me. I had been a nurse, who knows how long, 16 years by that point anyway. But that's when it became clear that if I was going to teach this, I had to walk it and talk it. I couldn't just talk it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of nurses, like in the healthcare and all professions. I mean, we all know what we should do. We all have that consciousness of what is the best thing for us. But to do it, to put the action to it, that's the hard part for most people. It's to putting the one foot in front of the other and beginning. And I always tell people, like with meditation, set your cell phone, because everybody has a cell phone today, for like 1 minute, and just breathe in love and exhale love. Just start there. If we could get people just to do that on a daily basis, it would be a great thing. So, and I always say, start small.
Yeah. I like micro changes, like something you barely notice.
Well, to me, like a doctor 30, 40 years ago told me I needed to meditate 20 minutes a day. And I said, are you out of your mind? It's not exactly what I said, but what I said. It was like 20 minutes to most busy people. You can't even pee. As nurses, we can't even pee.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when am I going to find 20 minutes to meditate? Sounded wonderful, but I never even tried to do the minute because he said 20 minutes. And that would, to me, was overwhelming. So
I had that same experience. Like, who can quiet their mind that long? Right? So I would try. I found for me that walking meditations were much better because then I was doing something.
yeah.
I don't know. I think there's always that drive to be productive or do things or, and so even self-care seems like a stretch sometimes. Like, what do you mean I have to, make a healthy breakfast or, plan ahead or I think we talk ourselves into it and talk ourselves out of things all the time. And again, that's one of those places in coaching where, wow, there's like a decision that happens to make that change. And then there's a conversation about it. So I can sort of reflect and like, do I really want this change? And if my mind and my body both say yes, I have a better chance. But if I have someone in my corner, like I also used to do cardiac rehab, cardiopulmonary rehab. I loved it because those people are motivated. They come in there and they're like, I want to live. What do I have to do? And that was the first time in my life that I actually figured out I could run because I was doing the exercises with my patients. And why I didn't continue that, because I was early in my career, I don't know. I got sidetracked, I almost feel like I fell asleep. Like I was just in the doing of life and the doing of nursing. And yes, I connected with people and had wonderful experiences. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that place within us that wants to be healthy, that already is healthy. That directly impacts the quality of.
So one of the things that we are very eager to share is that we offer no tools or techniques, because what we really offer is an awareness of the present moment. All tools and techniques are taking us away from the present moment. They're all saying you're not good enough, you're not where you need to be, there's something outside of you that's better than where you are now. And none of that is true. What we are now realizing is to simply become aware of ourselves and our surroundings. And as we move from there, the answers will come. I have a friend who had a young daughter, and the daughter would complain, Mom, I am so bored. And my friend Valda would just sit with her and she would say, well, let's just see what comes up next. And always, always, always some thought would come through and the child would have their next activity to go to. those things will be revealed to us when we see that there's no place better to get to. Will realize that we want to take a walk. We'll realize that we want to have a hot bath, and we will realize for ourselves the very next step to take, not through an intellectual analysis or a date that you made with yourself on the calendar, but exactly what you want to do next in this moment. I have a friend who says, when I wake up in the morning, if I feel like it, I'll go to the gym. Teresa, I think I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. I'm just grateful to be here having the parts of conversation that I can. And you know, just life in perfect motion. I think it's one of those places where this is what it looks like today.
The answers are never far away from us. The answers come through us, through our own insight, and as our awareness to notice what we're hearing and seeing ourselves. We don't have to do somebody else's life. We only have our own. So there's all kinds of stories out there about, well, I did this and this happened, and that's why you should all do it too. Not true. We each need our own individual guidance system. And that guidance system is our own personal insight. Any other questions, Jan or Sarah, Carolyn? Feel free to unmute yourselves as you wish.
I think it's fun that I see communication and teamwork so differently now, understanding the foundational principles that guide us in life. And truly, that's what we're bringing to nursing. Our program teaches one thing: resilience, how thought works. It doesn't, like Lynn said, add more to your plate, because when it's an internal dialogue, it's our way of knowing what to do next. And when we know it, not as a good idea, but as a fact that can actually support your practice, support your life, create that space for people that we take care of to have that experience for themselves. There is nothing in nursing that I have ever found more effective than understanding how resilience works. So that's our goal here. We really want to embrace that, empower people to really live your best life. And knowing that you get to change it, create it, make new decisions at any moment that you want to. Our society is full, if you're in any kind of self-improvement or self-development or coaching, there's all the buzzwords out there, but no buzzword will give you the experience that you're looking for until you understand it for yourself. So I would invite anyone who wants to know more to schedule a phone call with us. Consider, if you're not already a board certified nurse coach, because we are truly on a mission to improve the health of nurses and thereby improving the health of our communities. We all have people we know and love, and it starts with us. So thank you for being here. Truly appreciate your time and attention.
And I did put our Calendly links in the chat, so you can feel free to copy those and have a conversation. How about that? And I'll just say again that our website is so simple, just 2 words: the word nurse and the word coaching, nursecoaching.com. Our full name is Advancing Nurse Coaching, but I want to thank you again, all of you, for being here. And Teresa, I'm just overjoyed that you have the opportunity now to travel and be with your family and work at the same time without a major effort on your part. And I just know that conversations will begin from what has come today. So
Yeah.
I thank you for being here, especially, and I also want to thank each one of our participants. You can look for our replay. Oh, it'll be coming out, and also we will be having office hours question and answer follow up a week from today, same time at 11:30. So Teresa will be back home, and I think we'll have a better connection, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And share it with other people. You're welcome to invite anyone to these conversations. We just are connecting with each other and making friendships with colleagues and friends to see what's next for nursing.
Wow. So we are redefining nursing. We are defining the work that nurses do in a new way. Please join us. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks so much for your attention. Bye for now.